Zero DTEs. How do retailers trade this popular expiration? Jason and I will bust it up today as risk wrangling, derivative desperados on the Trader's Workshop. Let's get into it after the bell. You know. Hey, by the way, did my hat get lost in the mail or no?
Oh, we put something up for you, I thought.
No.
Oh, I'll make sure.
Don't worry about it. I had this thing about not getting my hats. Max does that to me all the time. He gets me a hat and I never get it. Oh. Whatever. Good to see you. No Mark today. Mark's traveling. Mark's going to France for a wedding for like 2 weeks, something goofy like that. So
get his wine in.
Yeah, he'll get his whining in. Okay, so today, yada, we are going to talk about zero DTEs. I know everyone's talking about it, but a little different, right? First of all, zero DTEs are expirations that expire today. Now, we have always had zero DTEs, except it was only once a month in the old days. Then they added a couple more. They got to Monday, Wednesday, and then they started doing them Tuesday, Thursday, and they added all the weeks. We go out 35 days-ish into the future where every single day has an expiration. Okay, so that's what zero DTE refers to. Quick data point from SIBO. I think the data says that trading in zero DTEs represents about 51%, might be even higher now, of trading in SPX alone. So critical point there too is that it's not a movement from backdated months to front-dated months. It's a new additive 51%. So it's really increased the volume of trading in that product and other zero DTE products that exist. Now, before we get into the topic of the day, what are your thoughts on zero DTE? Good, bad, and different for the retail person? How are you seeing dealers use it, that sort of thing?
So I don't know, good or bad. I mean, that's kind of, a blanket assumption, right? I think it requires a certain type of person. You have to be you have to have a solid edge and you have to have a great trade plan, because in zero DTE trading, you can lose a lot of capital really fast. Mm-hmm. So, or gain a lot of capital really fast. So I think that you definitely need a very solid trade plan. I mean, day traders have always existed. Mm-hmm. Now they just have a different vehicle to trade. So I think that zero DTEs are good. Overall, from a day trading standpoint, I think, though, that for the individual investor, it depends on their temperament, definitely, and their trade plan and their edge.
Okay. So good points. From my perspective, I think that, for me personally, trading, I would love to figure out a strategy that I could rinse and repeat with in a zero DTE. And the reason's obvious, especially for a retail person, right? It's instant gratification. And unfortunately, from time to time, it's instant, pain when you lose. But if you can figure something out where you can kind of harvest a little theta, then, you could be pretty successful. Now, what we've seen since the Trump tariffs is that we've had massive 1.5–2% moves in the the SPOOs, S&Ps, and the market, and those short iron condors and everything else that's kind of like that have taken some pain with those moves, right? And what we've seen in the retail side is that a lot of those customers have put their hands underneath their rear ends and sat on them for a while, waiting for this to subside, because they're just getting whipped around and having to close these things and stop out. Have you seen similar things?
I think earlier, like in mid-April, I saw people sitting on
Yeah.
their hands as far as that. They've come back. I think that, I mean, yesterday we saw a lot of sold puts at 59.50 and 59.25 just come rushing in. I do think that there is a, like between 0 DTE and 1 DTE, which would be tomorrow's expiration,
Yep.
there has been a perpetual backwardation. So it's a little bit higher implied volatility for 0 DTE than there has been for 1 DTE. A lot of that too is time weighted to the morning and the evening, like the first 15 minutes and the last 15 minutes.
On which structure, the 0 or the
0
1?
DTE, 0.
Okay.
And in between, you don't get that much harvested theta. And I think that a lot of people, I think that reflects too in retail in particular, the selling of condors starting at like 10 o'clock, which the market opens at 9:30 Eastern. Condors start getting sold at around 10 from what we notice.
Yep.
And they start getting bought back toward the end of the period because I think retail has learned you have to pay your lunch money at the end. You can't just rely on the market not moving for the last 15 minutes.
Correct.
So I think retail has definitely caught a rhythm, and dealers have not yet caught up to it necessarily. Some, in some cases you could say they have, but in some cases they haven't. It seems like there is a little bit of theta decay in between, those two beginning and last 15 minutes. That's what we've seen. But and it seems like retail is happy with that as their profit.
Right. So those are all very accurate points. I certainly concur. We see the same sort of behavior. One of the things that I also noticed that some of these groups do and people do is they'll do the 1 DTE toward the end of 0 day, right? So at that 2 o'clock time frame, 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Eastern, they'll start putting on their trade for the next day in a 1 DTE. We know the answer to why they do that. Why? Because they have less than 25,000 in their account and they're subject to the pattern day trading rule, which means that you can't close all these things intraday. So now when they span a day, if they sell these at 2 o'clock on 0, they can close it the next morning by that 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock time frame. We do see a lot of that. Now, the risk there is pretty evident. You take jump risk overnight. So you have the risk of a big gap. Anything, with a person like Trump in office, he can say things that will move the market pretty significantly. So you have that risk, on that overnight. But if and I don't know if you're seeing that priced in at all. Are the dealers pricing that sort of behavior in overnight?
Yes and no. I mean, they're pricing in. I think the overnight gets a strong, especially recently, the overnight gets a strong implied volatility bump, and it decays very fast after that first 15 minutes in the morning. However, the overnight has experienced a lot of volatility recently, other than the past week. You see plus or minus 30 points, 40 points in the overnight session. So I think that it's not necessarily being priced in like that, but I also think that it's for a reason. I think retail people who have done the 1 DTE thing have been hurt recently.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, point of our show today was some question you got from your community, right? About and explain. Tell me what I don't want to mess it up. So tell me set it up for everyone to go. Let's go through this.
Yeah, you get ready with your bell, but are you
gonna say Are you gonna say it?
No, I'm gonna say I contribute to a trading room called Leduc Trading with Samantha Leduc, and I asked a question like, how do you trade 0 DTE? And just kind of getting the temperature of the people in the room, right? One person mentioned that they just buy naked calls and naked puts, and they scalp and they stay in maybe for 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, and then they come out. To which I asked them, why are you doing that instead of verticals? And they only do it like in that middle, that around noon time frame, between like 10 and 1 or 2 or something. And I said, why aren't you doing verticals? Like, it's SPX is liquid enough. You could probably get in and out with verticals pretty easily in that time frame. And they didn't know why not. They just did long puts and long calls. And I think they had a Robinhood account, which doesn't let you sell options. So I told him first he has to go to Tradier because they let you sell options on.
Wait, hold on. That's a plug.
It's a plug.
That's a plug.
Unpaid plug, even though I'm on the Tradier show. I don't get compensated. But I mean, first of all, get out of your broker dealer if they don't let you sell options. That's, they're buying options is a
safe to say it's a critical part of options trading, being able to sell an option and buy it. It's pretty critical.
I would say.
Okay.
But second of all, it brought up the question people started asking as follow-ups. Why would you do a vertical instead of a naked option? And I said, you know what? That's a good topic for Lex and I today.
Okay. Right. So before we get to that, let me go to a question. Bobby, you're the man. Thank you for this. Let me put it up here. Can you see it? This is one of your hot button items. So, Bobby's been in the market forever. So I know he might even know the answer to this already. So what are your thoughts there? I certainly have a thought on this one about inherent risk. My feeling, we've heard the Volmageddon story, and zero DTEs are contributing factors to potentially causing that. What are your thoughts there?
So what we've seen kind of with our data is zero DTEs have actually mitigated risk, not enhanced market risk. And the reason why is because we notice that zero DTE trading is probably, while retail has a good chunk of it, obviously.
Yep.
Zero DTE trading, I think, is mostly dealers hedging the other side of their book, right? Their larger book. And so I think zero DTEs have allowed market makers to control their risk better. They're cheap Greeks. If you need cheap Vega, you can do a zero DTE or a 1 DTE or something like that. And, we've seen even before the existence of zero DTE, we've seen that happen on Fridays, expanded volume happens on zero DTE when it was a Friday expiration. Mm-hmm. So I think that actually it's quite the opposite. I know there's some white papers out there warning about zero DTE, gamma risk in zero DTE. And while conceptually it might exist, I think that the overall look has been that zero DTE has mitigated market risk more than made it worse.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's true. My feeling is very similar. And I've talked with some of the folks at SIBO who have a lot of great data on this too, and they tend to align with that, I think. Plus some of my old pals who are still in the market making business and still work for those shops and trade that, I kind of asked this question to them, and they said exactly what you said. And to the point where some of these entities, these market making entities, have zero DTE teams that just deal with zero DT. Now they look at the overall book for sure, but they trade zero DT as much as possible within itself. And if they need a hedge for the rest of the book, they use it as such, right?
Yeah,
you're right. It's very cheap dollar. So it might not be cheap implied volatility, but it's cheap dollar kind of purchases that they can make. And the other thing too is gamma squeezing and all the vana and charm that goes with it. You get to a point and you get to another level, unless someone someone else is buying from them in another zone of the curve, they're already hedged after a certain point. It's over, right?
Yeah. And gamma hedging actually rarely, it's not a very common thing. It's kind of more rare. It's only when there's strong market moves. What we've also noticed is when there is a strong market move to the downside, they layer, customers, I guess you could say, layer on puts underneath. I think a lot of that is dealers too. Like the higher tenor dealers are hedging by buying the cheap Greeks underneath. Yeah. And, typically they are, they're short puts. And if those short puts start going into the money, they start buying puts on zero DTE, just expecting, expecting the rebound instead of maybe overhedging with underlying or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Bobby, for that. I appreciate that. We're going to have you on to tell us about your answer on that. You get you and Jimmy on, and we'll talk about it. So, incidentally, Bobby and Jimmy are part of Trader's Edge on the Tradier Hub network, and they're on Wednesdays. And Bobby, throw in the chat what time it is because I can't remember it because I get Eastern time and Central time always confused. I think it's 1 o'clock.
Also, Bobby should ask. We should ask him. Does he agree with our assessment?
He might tell us. All right. So back to this gamma thing, and why not just buy options versus sell options? So let me pose to you this. I did a little bit of a study, let's say, and I did it in the real market with day trading. Okay. I followed this guru and did his thing. And when I got the buy signal, I didn't sell a put, I bought a call. Okay. When I got the sell signal, I didn't sell a call, I bought a put. And I did it in the most front-dated option I possibly could. This is probably pre-zero DTE, so I might have had a little time to go. But they were cheap dollar options, 60 cents, 50 cents, 70 cents on the high end. And I'm trying to make a nickel, dime, quarter, at the most on a move.
Okay.
So the premise was that, or the theory was that, well, you're getting out of this within minutes, maybe an hour at the most, and the theta component isn't terribly massive where it's going to ruin the whole trade if it goes your way after the largest part of the time zone. Mm-hmm. So you can be right even with theta at your back or in your face, I should say. And it's just easy to buy the option, and you can make a much, much greater thing if something happens in the interim. It really goes catastrophic or great, and the convexity of options really kicks in. Whereas you have the short against that in a vertical spread, okay, then you kind of eat up some of that major long gain, and you're not getting anything for it of any substance on a day trade. What do you think about all that? Makes sense or not so much?
So, this is where I'm going to have to disagree because, first of all, I mean, if we're in the middle, SPX is, you're right. And we're talking LongGamma vertical versus a LongGamma put, right? Bought put.
Yes. First of all, before we go there, I know we have some newer people and some beginners. So let's explain what a LongGamma vertical. First of all, let's explain what the vertical is real quick, and then what the LongGamma vertical means, because you can be short gamma in a vertical too, depending on where the at the money is relative to your long and short strikes, right? So first of all, what's a vertical? Let's do a call vertical first.
Okay, so a call vertical is when you, on the same expiration, you buy one strike and you sell a different one. A LongGamma vertical means that your bought strike is closer to price than the sold one, and a short gamma vertical is the opposite. Okay, correct. If you do a short gamma vertical, your maximum gain is the premium that you collect on that trade, and your maximum loss is the gap between your short strike and your long strike minus the premium that you gained. Okay. So that is a short gamma. Well, that would be a credit spread, a short gamma credit spread. On the long gamma, it is very similar to buying an option, except you cap your gains at the short strike. Now, the reason why I disagree with you on what you were saying about just going in and out with the naked put or a naked call is if you applied the same capital to the vertical as you did your naked put, then you would be able to put on probably 3, 4, 5 more verticals than you would for every one put you had.
Okay, fair.
That would, and I'm just assuming, you have to kind of make something equal, and that thing that making equal is the capital you put in, the margin you put in. If you do that, your gamma is going to skyrocket if you even get close to your long strike with the vertical. So you're able to make more quicker if you were to use the vertical. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so that technically is correct about what you said relative to gamma. Now, I would argue that in a market-making capacity, which is different from a retail capacity, market makers care about gamma more than a retail person should. And what I would say is that if it goes correct, with a vertical for a retail person, his or her response to being right is to get out of the trade, not to hedge it.
Right.
You're not going to hedge your gamma because you can't, technically.
Right.
You can't sell deltas if you're long a call vertical with long gamma because you're equally short a long and a short. The second you sell a call, that's an extra short call that now you're naked on, and they're not going to let you do that unless you have a ton of money in your account. Okay.
Oh, I would take off the whole vertical.
That's right. That's my point.
Once I win.
Yeah. Once you win, you take out the vertical. So in my world, whether it's gamma or not, if I'm just long the option or long the vertical, I don't care. I'm taking it off either way you cut it. I'm not getting any advantage to gamma whatsoever. Really, I'm just getting an advantage of price. And I know it's all interrelated. I get that, but I'm just looking for a move in the correct direction and getting out of the trade easily. I can get out of one single option very simply. When you add another one to it, it gets a little harder. But in SPX, I get it. Super liquid, SPY super liquid, not probably a problem. But do I need the short at all if I'm in it for just a short amount of time?
That's the advantage I think that you hit on is liquidity. So you get better liquidity in one option than you do in two. I do think though, I mean, like let's say you did, you were buying a 30 delta call one, and I'm buying 3 or 4 30-20 long gamma call verticals, right? If we get a quick move, I'm probably going to be able to get out sooner at the same profit point that you're getting out of.
Yeah.
That's why I think gamma, that's the component of gamma that I'm talking about. It's not so much hedging. It's more how quickly can I realize these gains?
Right. So interesting. Around that concept, and we got to go in a second here. Around that concept, what I was experimenting with is combining the spreads, right? So everyone's used to doing iron condors where you sell them, right? Simple, get them way out of the money, little bit of premium in the sale, close it, harvest some theta, close that sucker, and rinse and repeat day two. Well, that works fairly well in staid markets, but I started experimenting with the opposite, and I did it with iron butterflies and long iron condors. Okay, so now you flip that on its head and turn it upside down, and now what you need is not a sideways market. You need a market that's going to really move.
Yeah.
Okay, because what I started noticing is that inevitably I get pinned somewhere along the way on these short things. And wait a minute, if I did the opposite closer in, I know I got to pay a little more, but it seems like I'm always having a chance to get out of these things, right? And I'll make a caveat. Implied volatility makes a difference, right? In really low implied vol markets, those are going to be they're going to feel weird, those kind of spreads, right? So, you want to do those kind of trades in really high implied volatility, but everything's very pricey at that point. So beauty of doing both a long vertical on the call side and a long vertical on the put side. Now, if they're the same strike, the straddle, that becomes a butterfly, iron butterfly. And if they're different, it becomes an iron condor. Long is that you don't have to care about direction. You don't have to be right there. It can go either way, right? It just has to go with some speed. Doesn't have to go super crazy. It just got to go, and it can even drift if it drifts far enough, and you can get out of these things.
Yeah, but the one issue, I mean, I'm not a big fan of straddles, but the reason why is because not only do you need it to move, but you need it to move so much that it makes up for your losing wing.
Right. True.
You will always lose on one of those wings, and unless of course you're legging out, then you have a chance to win. But yeah, I mean the losing wing has to doubles your premium, so you have to really win if you want a long vol move like that.
Right. Well, we got to run. Let's take this up a little more on the beginning next time. Yeah. But the good concept, and I know people are trying these things, right? They're doing these things in zero DT a lot. We see it a lot, so that's good news. By the way, Trader's Edge, Bobby and Jimmy are 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Don't forget to watch these guys. They're live on Wednesdays. They're fantastic. These two cats, they're good buddies of mine. Originally Chicagoland guys. Bobby jumped ship, moved elsewhere, but I love him, and I know where he moved. I'm not going to say it, but he's in a great spot.
Yes.
Jimmy's nearby, and every once in a while we get together in person. So we'll probably do a show together soon.
Don't dox your friends, man.
That's right. Next thing before we go, this sign behind me, it says "Get Lex Posed," like getting exposed. Don't expose yourself, but
that's what I was hoping. I'm hoping I don't get Lex posed.
You don't want to get Lex posed. However, this is our new YouTube channel that we're doing. Okay, it's where we dive into the world of options trading, finance, investing, all wrapped up in a little luxury lifestyle vibe. When I say we, who the hell is we? That's my co-host Molly. She's from Hollywood. She's smart. She's stunning. She's financially savvy. She's a surfer girl from California, and she knows the business. So we're just launching this. We have some shows in the library that we're releasing. And the point of the matter is it's not necessarily about trading. It's about all things managing money and finance. It could be a real estate developer who says, I'm going to go buy this piece of property. And he has the same metrics that we have as traders in his head. He's got to decide, is this a good risk reward? Am I willing to put capital in this trade, which is actually buying a piece of property so I can make a return on it? What's my edge proposition? And we learn about these things from these sort of people, which, quite frankly, I have no experience in. But these experts and titans of their industry will join us on the Lexpose show, and we'll get a Lexposition. A what? In your face, man.
This sounds like it needs to be on OnlyFans.
I know, right? So stay tuned for that. YouTube show is out there, coming soon. So check it out. I think the show's going to air on Wednesdays, but we'll see. So stay tuned.
All right, cool.
Otherwise, any announcements for you?
Tune in for Bobby's show too.
Yeah, tune in to Bobby's show. Any other news from you and Volland? What you're doing, or Dan?
So at Volland, we have launched the Volland Academy. That was a couple weeks ago. So that was that's skyrocketed our YouTube viewership. A lot of people are watching those videos. Lex, we're gonna have to do some more videos. We'll have to do like stories from the pit or something like that.
I got plenty of them. And get Bobby and Jimmy on with us. The three.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great because your video has gotten the most feedback. It's been it was fun. So.
Well, I got plenty of stories. Don't worry. That's awesome. Good. Because you said the Academy, another announcement. You just reminded me. I got to say this, and I'm hoping you're going to be a part of it. And if Bobby, you're still here, and tell Jimmy, we are creating the Tradier U, which means the university. We are going to have curated courses on education and options and trading generally, but mostly options. It'll be beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert. It'll be on the hub. So it'll be hub.tradier.com. It is not there now, but you will need to have the premium membership, which just means that you just have to sign up. It's free. Okay. All you need to do is put your email in there and not even a password, just your email. But it is going to be great content. And what we're doing is I'm going to be the main host, and we're going to get folks like Jason and Bobby and the OIC and SIBO, Henry from SIBO. They're going to come in and do guest appearances. And a lot of our third-party partners will be there as well, and give little courses so that you can digest these things and learn on your own at your own speed. So look for that on hub.tradier.com. It's coming soon. We're already starting to tape some of the episodes. Cool?
All right. Sounds great.
Bingo. All right, man. You have a great rest of the week and weekend. Everyone do the same, and we'll see you next time on the Traders Workshop.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.